Hey, welcome everybody. Dave Cooper live, and this is BS Friday. I love it with Dave Cooper and Mark Willie. What's up, Mr. Mark Willie?
Dave, happy BS Fridays to you, brother.
Yeah, brother. Love it. All right, everybody. I mean, we have a great show, and it's about sustainability. It's about, do you have a product? Do you have a service? Do you have a business with a plan of sustainability? Because it is the future. It is what's happening, especially with COVID. We are driving this forward faster than ever, and not on our agenda. I think the world is expecting it now, and people out there are expecting to have environmentally friendly products that are not only going to be good for us, but for the future generations to come. So that's number one, and we're going to have Denice Staaf on very, very shortly. Thumbs up, Mark. Everybody out there, we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So please hit that like and share button right now, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And last but not least, we have some announcements to make. Mark, I mean, we have the Building Systems Council week coming up, right? I'm going to actually flash this up so everybody can see it. NAHB. September 21st through the 25th. It is free to register. It is a full week of boards and panels, all discussing Offsite. And as we all know, the International Builder Show in Orlando, as of now, is still going to happen and is ready to go. So sign up for that because registration has happened. And Jen's going to put notes in the comments to all these things. And one last announcement, Mark. We're going to be live on location. I told you the road show has started. We're going to be live on location in Washington, D.C. next week, probably Tuesday and Wednesday, maybe Monday, with the MMC, the Modular Mobilization Coalition. They are setting one of their first units since this coalition formed during COVID. It's going to be super cool.
I'm looking forward to it, Dave. So have a safe trip to DC. Godspeed to you, and get ready, folks, because it's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
PH
100%, 110% fun. All right, so listen, we got a special guest today, and before we bring her on, I'm gonna say one more thing. And today's a very special day to a lot of people out there. September 11th. Let's make sure that we all pay our respects to everybody that has been fighting for us and have served our country, as well as all those who perished during that day. So
much respect to you too, Dave.
All right. Thanks, Mark. All right. So we have this gal, Denice Staaf, and I'm telling you, she has a ton of energy.
We're gonna have our hands full today, because when she dives into her passion, the product life cycle, we're all along for a ride. We got a great presentation to fit it all in. So for folks that are normally here for BS Fridays, we're doing it a little bit different in order to deliver all this content. We have a lot of viewers today, and I'm ready, Dave. Let's do it, brother.
Yeah, a lot of viewers today. All right, let's bring in Denice. Here she comes. Denice, watch this. Magic will happen right now.
I feel like the lady that you're cutting in the box, right? Let's put your feet here. Let's put you there, you know. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like I have a lot to live up to now.
Well, I don't think so. I think the world has a lot to live up to you, because what you're doing is helping companies, manufacturers, suppliers in every industry put together sustainability programs within their industry. And not only is it doing that, but it's changing the culture of what they do. It's not just a program for the product. It's an entire makeover that happens, and it happens organically. It's not something you're doing. It's just by putting the process in place. So I think Mark and I, we're super excited to learn more about this.
Yes, thank you. And you are right. For manufacturers, it's not just making your product more sustainable, saving energy, saving water. It's actually changing the way you think about sustainability. And we're going to talk about that in the presentation. But for, I've been lead AP since 2002. So back when, there were like 50 people at Greenbuild at the, I remember in 2002 going to the Greenbuild show.
Right.
And there were literally like 2 rows. There were like 50 people there. So
I was there.
Exactly.
Was Mark heckling you? Because I hear he's always heckling at these shows. Everybody we have on used to sit in the background and heckle.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that. But so sustainability since then has been about saving water, saving energy, doing the right thing, preserving stormwater. Obviously, this is all the basis of LEED, doing less harm, right? So LEED is about doing less harm. And now we're going to ask manufacturers and companies and businesses to think beyond that. And if you want to start the presentation, I'll start telling them about it.
Yeah, I love it. You know what? This is what's so great about you. You just jumped right in, and that's exactly what we wanted to do today. You surpassed my "give me everything from birth till now" comments, and you did it. So we're good to go. All right, so we're going to pull up your presentation right now.
Yep.
Let me put it on the screen.
And the reason why I'm doing a presentation, which I didn't realize was uncommon for you guys, is because I want to give manufacturers tips they can use today, right?
Sure.
So if you spend the hour with us today, I want you to walk away with some ideas on what you can do looking at your company today.
Absolutely.
Short of hiring me, you know.
Oh, are you for hire? You're not.
I'm totally for hire.
I love it.
Anyways,
All right. So we have your first slide deck up. So sustainability versus sustainable development.
So as I was saying, sustainability is what we've been doing. We've been, saving energy, saving water, not using one-use plastics and things like that. But now what I want you to do is turn the lens a little bit and look at it from the lens of sustainable development. So the Brundtland Commission put out a report. It's called Our Common Future, and it describes sustainable development as ensuring that you meet the needs of the present without compromising future generations, right? So what we're going to turn it to think about is not only am I going to be sustainable for me, but I'm going to be sustainable for the future. And what does the future look like? Because when you start looking at the future, you want to give back. And that's the difference. So sustainability is I'm doing less harm, and sustainability is I'm not only doing less harm, I'm giving back to the future more than I'm taking. So that's a quick way to think about it. So it's a whole transformational mindset. So what a lot of what we're doing now is called standalone sustainability. So sustainability is here, and the rest of the organization is here. And as the sustainability manager, I'm going to try to get you to be more sustainable. I'm going to try to get the company to be more sustainable. But when I'm asking you to give back, it actually ultimately infiltrates other departments, right? So employees say, well, maybe we want to work on this, and maybe we want to give back to our community that we're living in. I have a great story of a company who manufactured in Puerto Rico, and the CEO one day from the airport to the factory took a service car and looked around and said, oh my God, this is where my employees live, and redid their water system in the community at their charge. And guess what? Less people called off, less people were sick, people stayed longer. And so this is about giving back. And you can see I'm getting passionate because I'm all getting teary-eyed thinking about improving the lives of the people that work for you and their families and their neighbors and their, and this and on and on. So not everybody has to do that, but it's a way to think about it. So do you think the employees think the company's sustainable? Of course they do. Do you think if all we did was put out a report, they would think we were sustainable? Probably not. And so this is the mind shift. So you can go to the next slide. Let's talk about how to get there. Okay, so the next slide is about the Sustainable Development Goals. And these are from the UN. They're country level goals, but at the same time, we can learn a lot from them. Businesses need to be involved so that we can achieve them. So there are things like no poverty, zero hunger, good health, quality education. You can read through them, but there's 17 of them, and they have 169 targets to go with them and 232 indicators, which is a lot. But it's a roadmap. And I really encourage companies to look at this and think about sustainability in this way, because that ultimately broadens how they're thinking about their organization. And when you're thinking about it, we're going to talk about your footprint, and it's beyond your four walls. Even if you are in the United States, it's still beyond your four walls. Please, next slide. So the benefits, I've kind of given you the benefits of shifting from sustainability to sustainable development. We're going to use the life cycle as the basis of this, and a lot of manufacturers know what a product life cycle is. So next slide. so when they're looking at their life cycle, they're going to start with raw materials. They're going to, move through, and then that tells us kind of a footprint. So when you're looking at those 17 sustainable development goals as a new person looking at them as a manufacturer, what I don't want you to do is say, you know what, I think we can do climate change. I think we can do equality. I think we can do this one. Because what you're going to see is all 17 are interrelated. And those 17 interrelated are going to help you make that big contribution to society, right? So just because you can cut your greenhouse gases, just because you can put a filter on the water that you're sending out of your plant, and that does do really good stuff, but what it doesn't do is build the community, build the country, build the economy, which is what sustainable development is all about. So it's a complete picture.
Amen.
Yeah. Next slide.
Denise, let me ask you a quick question before we go to the next slide, if you're all right. So with that, if we're going, how important is it, especially today, for sustainability and businesses to have a sustainability plan? Because not all these, there's some I don't know what the word is, older businesses that have been around, for legacy businesses that have been around a long time. They have a ton of products. Today's Gen Z, Gen X, they're expecting this now. I mean, if you've ever been in Google or, it's PC, and they all care about the environment, and which they should. And I think that how important is this to everybody? Because I think people need to hear that.
Yes. McKinsey put out a study post-COVID and said, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, consumers are looking for a reset. They're looking for you to come out of COVID with this sustainability, product transparency. They're looking for social responsibility, because now people have bought less. According to Amazon, they buy lots of books during COVID, but nobody's buying a lot of jeans, and nobody's buying a lot of, other things. And so now what they've learned to do is a little bit live without those things. And so if you want their dollar in the future, you're going to have to align with their interests. And without a doubt, they have said the interest is environmental responsibility, social responsibility, inclusion. Look at what's going on now. How many women are on your board? How many women are in your leadership? How many minorities are on your board and in your leadership? This is now a big deal. And so if you want their dollar in the future, you have to make these changes.
Yeah, Mark, it's so true. We're seeing it across the board on all of our shows and all of our conversations, how important and this is, moving forward. And I think COVID has just really shown a light on how unhealthy, products and houses can be.
It's also
and how unhealthy our buying behavior was.
Yeah. Right.
It's integrity based, right? It's the full mindset of the entire team, the entire mission, and everyone's passion. Right. It's not a greenwashing message, because those clients are not clients. They're people waiting in line to close up their doors.
Yep. Well said.
Yep. For sure.
Well
for
said.
Sure. All right, let's get back. I'll get back to the slide, and we're going to get to number 3, and then we are going to come to you, the audience, and we're going to take some questions. We have a lot of people watching today on all 3 social media channels, so we're going to probably just stick to questions today, maybe a few shout outs if we have time. So don't anybody get offended. We just have so much going on this show, and I think it's a lot of fun. So, but what you can do is hit that like and share button right now.
Right on YouTube.
Go to YouTube when we're done with the show, and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can listen to Denise's presentation again and again and again. All right.
Oh boy.
Moving back in, because that's what the world needs, right, Denise?
Yeah, right. So next slide.
All right.
So if you think this is, okay, I manufacture in the United States, I'm a business in the United States, this is the 2019 dashboard for how the U.S. is doing on those sustainable development goals. And red means we're going in the wrong direction. Orange means we've got major problems. And look what we've got problems with. Gender equality, hunger, climate change, responsible consumption, and peace and justice. I mean, these are real problems,
Right.
but these are also things that manufacturers and organizations and people in general can really impact. And so that's why it's really important to kind of shift your mindset into how you think about sustainability as a company, because you can affect this change. This is not a country level change. In the United States, this is a societal change.
Yeah, and if you, like you said, if you look at the news right now, you could pick any number of these, and they are headline news topics somewhere.
Exactly. We are not doing well at all. So next slide. So in order to find your organization's global reach, the easiest way to do it, I'm going to give you two options. The easiest way to do it is if you have a product life cycle, you're going to read it. I know a lot of people have not read it. If you've paid for it, you've paid a lot of money. I can assure you, I do them. And the person spent a lot of hours compiling all that information for you. So the first thing I would actually recommend you do is read it. Now, if you do have one somewhere on a hard drive and you don't know, I will tell you right now, you can email me. My email will be at the end. I will read it with you and tell you what it means if you want to know, absolutely free of charge, for nothing. But it's the most valuable document that you have right now to affect change in your organization. And I want you to be able to know the information and use it. And so life cycle is all about what you can do and change. It's going to give you low-hanging fruit, and it's going to give you a lot of action plans if you know what to look at. Okay, for the slide, there's a couple of different ways. Just real quickly, let me touch on that, and then they can ask questions about life cycle. Okay. So the life cycle for manufacturers that know, a lot of it is cradle to gate, and that's going to be your material extraction, your transportation, and your manufacturing. And they're measuring everything from the first molecule to every kilowatt of energy that you use. If you want extra inclusion, which we will do, it's called cradle to cradle, and you'll hear that organization that talks about the upcycling and reusing materials and all of that, and everything having a new cradle. So when you get it ready to leave your gate, your dock, that's called cradle to gate. When you keep going into how it gets transformed to the job site, how they use it on the job site, how long it's going to be there, what they do with it at the end, that is called cradle to cradle. And so we're also going to look at risk and what kind of risk is in your supply chain. A lot of supply chain people have figured out that their supply chains have a lot of risk post-COVID. And so that's really important as well. So that's a good stopping point.
Can you give us an example of that? The risk that a supply chain has post-COVID?
Post-COVID, where are you manufacturing? If you're manufacturing in China, you might have a serious supply problem.
Right.
So that's the easiest one. Anything that right now, I just read an article that said all of the current ships that are available in China to transport goods are already at sea. So if you're going to transport something now, you're going to pay more per, container. So these are risks. Because these change how much you charge, they change what your availability is, which ultimately affects your final product. So looking for risk in your supply chain is now a big deal.
Yeah. Thank you for driving that home.
You know what, Dave? I came here to drink some coffee and build some change, and I'm almost out of coffee.
Well, if I could put money in the slot, I'd send you some change so you can go buy some. All right. Let's hop over to the comment section here. We're just going to start at the top and we're going to go through real fast, make some shout outs and hellos. All right. So we always have the one and only Shane McNutt. Good afternoon, Shane. We have Sean St. Amour. Good morning from BS Friday Embodied Carbon. Got our good friend George Ryman, BS Friday in hot Arizona. Love it. Adam White's joining us. These are all, by the way, really, really intelligent people that understand BS Friday, building science information, and they all have some great products too. So if you don't know them, you should for sure.
And all right, moving product manufacturers, Dave, they're all tuning in because the content you're rolling out about product life cycle, Denice, that's what we want to hear. So bless your heart.
Absolutely. Joe Hutchins. Hey, Joe, good afternoon from Virginia. Love it. Adam White's with us. Good afternoon. Intelligent Membranes in the house. So another manufacturer. Here we go. Andrew Seeley, happy BS Friday. All looking forward to the following as long as you dig deep into this topic. Also a special day to remember. Thanks for sharing your story earlier. Well, I appreciate that, Andrew. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate your shouting that out. All right. We have Al. Hey, Al, how you doing? Hi, guys. Bring on the BS. All right, we're going to get through a couple more of these real quick. Let's just see. We got Jenny Melman joining us this morning. Hey, Jenny. Jenny works with manufacturers all over the place and suppliers. So this is a fundamental switch the industry must make. So many others already have, from do no harm to do good.
Yes.
Great comment, Jenny. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Jennifer Brighton, essentialism, what really is important, question mark, the disciplined pursuit of less. That's a big thing.
T-shirt.
There it is. And then we have Arturo. Great thing. Greetings from Mexico City.
Arturo.
Excellent theme to discuss. A lot to do. So do you know Arturo?
I do. I'm doing work with Arturo, and he is doing amazing work at CMEX in the field of sustainability. They're doing a lot of transparency documentation, and they're really just put the building blocks in place to make real change. So
I
nice to see you, Arturo.
Yeah. And put your comments on who you're with and where you're from, Arturo, in the comment box there. There's a lot of people tuning in, and this is a place for everybody to network and get to know each other. Yeah,
you definitely should know Arturo. He's got a lot going on.
Yeah. I love it. Well, there you go. There's possibility for the show. So always adding more. Hey, go ahead, Mark.
Mark, you're muted.
Your mic's muted. Mark.
If you manufacture a product, right? Please share in the chat box what you manufacture and where you manufacture. We know we can't get to all these questions, but Dave and Denice and I, we review that later. So please share with everyone.
Definitely.
This is a community. We are here to help. That's why she's presenting.
Absolutely.
So be bold, share it forward, and no question goes unanswered. They will inspire other people that aren't here to ask those questions, and people can review that at a later time. Of course, it's on YouTube. So if you're not here today, that question still pertains, and we will get back to you. So keep on asking.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
and I deliberately put my email at the end, even though I knew it was going to go out to, however many people. It doesn't matter. If you do have a question or you need something, I'm always here to help.
I love it. Actually, I'm making a comment right here for our banners, Mark. I know my spelling is not going to be accurate, but you know what? I'm going to rush. No question is a stupid question.
Stupid question now. I always say that in my presentations because I know the information so well and I say it so many times. If you have a question, most likely it's because I skipped over something and there's other people with that same question.
Yeah, 100%. So be the one who asks the question. You might be surprised.
Be the hero.
I love it. All right, here we go. We're back into our presentation.
So next slide. We're going to try to go quickly. All right, so this is an example of the interrelatedness. So if you think that just ending poverty or zero hunger or making sure that the families have access to nutritional food for children has one effect, it actually has ripples effect. It affects their education because they don't go to school hungry. It affects, a multitude of areas that you don't even think about. So this is why I'm saying when you think about sustainable development and you think about your small goal, just expand it out a little bit, because then you're going to pick up other areas that you hadn't even intended. So next slide. So when you think of a life cycle analysis, we talked about that. It's product specific, but we're going to go beyond that. So even if you have a life cycle, you have a really good starting point. You know where your raw materials, you know all about your transportation, you know your carbon footprint, and you know about how much electricity is used during manufacturing. But now let's take that into life cycle thinking. So when you start building a high level structured sustainability program for your organization, you have to think beyond. You have to think about who, beyond the first molecule, let's talk about how these things align with your organization. So if you are trying to be sustainable and you're cutting your greenhouse gas emissions, that's a great statement that is aligning with who you are. But if you are making sure that you are contributing positively, that's also making a great statement that is aligning with your organization in the community. So next slide. So when you think about it, let's go back to the life cycle and move forward from there, because I don't want to lose anybody. So let's take a simple desk. Everyone's sitting at a desk for the most part. And what is it? It's a particle board, which is wood, dust, and glue. And the glue may or may not have formaldehyde in it, depending if you bought it at Walmart. Not that I don't like Walmart, but wherever, or you bought it at, Herman Miller. So what's really important there is your wood dust probably came from the United States if you manufacture in the United States, but the formaldehyde. The formaldehyde could have come from a wide variety of countries. And so manufacturers now are trying to be transparent about where things come from. So let's say formaldehyde. Why is formaldehyde even bad? Formaldehyde actually can cause irritation in us from breathing in the formaldehyde, what's called volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. And if it's high enough, it could have a risk of cancer simply from breathing in the fumes. So manufacturers are trying to eliminate that. But how do they know? I can, without a doubt, tell you right now that working with manufacturers, they don't know what's in their chemicals. They've used that wood glue. It's a great wood glue, and they've used it for 10 years. They don't have any product complaints. Their quality is good. What's in it? The manufacturer doesn't want to tell me. I don't know. Well, that's not a good answer. And you're going to keep using it. And so what the life cycle, even when you're thinking about aligning with your goals, is looking at the transparency of what you're doing. Do you know what's in the things that your employees are exposed to? Do you know where they came from? And so when you start building and layering in that information, all of a sudden what starts popping up are, oh, we should do something about that. Let's put that on the list. And so this is going to help you find your goals. You can find your sustainability goals. We can call them objectives or goals, and help you align that with what your company is already doing. So if you have a program of health and safety, and you know what's on your SDS sheets, you know all of that. So now let's take what's in your products and align that for your customers, because that's going to give you a great starting point. So when I tell you to read the life cycle, it has great information. I'm telling you essentially to align with what you have currently to what you're doing as an organization. And that starts integrating the sustainability back and forth. And then start pulling in the life cycle thinking beyond that.
Yeah, and it helps with the culture, right? Because the culture then expands naturally throughout the organization.
Exactly.
And let's really talk about where this gets a company as well. And correct me, I might be out of line here, Denice, but I would imagine if you have a large corporation and everybody in the corporation is thinking sustainability, thinking about the environment, thinking about all those different areas, that were on the chart, my guess is the company's also going to save massive amounts of money on paper and resources that they're currently. So it's not just the sales cycle of what their product is and what they can put on the market, but there's an internal savings, I'm assuming, from all this in a big way, especially if you're a large corporation.
There's what's called efficiency targets and transformational targets. So your efficiency targets are your low-hanging fruit, and they're the easiest way to get a return on your investment. So your efficiency targets are going to be saving energy, saving materials, saving water. Those are instantly going to give you savings in the company. I always say that every time you purchase energy in the form of gas, electricity, natural gas, propane, it doesn't matter, you're spending money. So the more efficient you can become, even if it's trucking, you're charged by the mile. The more efficient you can become in your operations, A, that's sustainability. B, it's good business because it's going to put more money on the bottom line. So those are the first places to look, and those are the easiest. And I always encourage people to get people involved. Whenever I present a life cycle, I tell the CEO or whoever is my contact every single time, I want to do a presentation about what this means, because the numbers speak volumes to me, but they might not necessarily, 4.5 CO2e per kilogram of your product might not tell you anything. And so I always tell them, I want to do a presentation. I want you to invite everybody, anybody and everybody to this presentation. And I've only ever had one CEO take me up on it. One. The meeting was about 2.5 hours in. They were redesigning their packaging to use less materials. They were redesigning their purchasing protocols. And it turned into not only a 3-hour meeting, but it created change, because people started saying, well, why do we do the packaging that way? We didn't used to do it that way. Why do we do it that way now? What happened? And everybody goes, I don't know. We just do it that way. Change.
So Denice, I could comment on this from a personal standpoint. This is under the spectrum of health. So you mentioned no added urea formaldehyde, right? And in our buildings, often we monitor the indoor air quality. So for years as a carpenter, right, we would go through, 40, 60 sheets of MDF in a day, ripping them both at the shop and on site. And those particulates, right, who knows what's in them, but they're in your lungs, they're in your body, and it has a big effect. Then it stays in the building. And that's why I mentioned the IAQ, because our buildings are so tight that they're off-gassing into the space. And where does that go? That goes into other textiles, into other parts. And so, Dave, when they came out with these sheet goods that had no added urea formaldehyde, at first they were rare and they were high priced and they were uncommon. And what you found is, over a course of about 6 years, they became everywhere, from box stores to you name it. It became the norm. So single-handedly, the sheet goods market adopted that, because they realized it wasn't just the risk of health to the occupants of our buildings and schools and homes. It was the workers and
absolutely.
The healthcare folks and the insurance folks. I don't know how much data they have on this, but I can tell you today, I don't cough when I cut.
Oh yeah. I always say that LEED did enormous good for the building industry, because they caused manufacturers to do two things: be transparent and also to examine what was in their products. And as a result, they were able to make changes, and they were able to make monumental changes in the building materials. I also think, I have to be the first naysayer when Well AP first came out and Well Buildings. I was like, who the heck is going to do this? I have a new appreciation. I was training a group of people on Well AP, and I have a new Well Building Standard and being a Well AP. And I actually am going to go get the certification, because I have a new appreciation for Well AP and Well Building Standard, because where LEED is doing less harm and causing that shift in the building industry. So when you have to have a life cycle, when you have to have an EPD, when you have to have HPDs, when you have to have all of this, what you're doing is you're being that catalyst to change. What Well is doing is being a catalyst to change on occupant health and occupant well-being. And it's just the next level. It's not only about how you design it, it's the colors. It's the biggest credits in it. So LEED has, life cycle and all of that. But the biggest credits for Well is about occupant safety, occupant comfort. What are you breathing? What are you coming in contact with? What hazardous materials are no longer allowed in it? So you're really building that safety and well-being, and in addition to doing less harm, right? So I absolutely agree with you.
So the standards for Well more stringent than they are for LEED, or just different? Different.
A lot of them are the same, but they really focus on occupant well-being, occupant comfort, how people feel good in a space.
Right.
Exposure to outdoors, be able to walk up to the front door from the street. I mean, there's a lot of, and so does Fitwell. I'm a Fitwell certified as well. And so Fitwell does similar to Well, but they don't get into as many building materials. But all of those two standards are about really making indoor environment comforting and giving you a sense of well-being into it. Where we created that monumental shift in building materials. Forever and on.
Little bit of foreshadowing here, Denise, because Dave knows we have a guest coming on in a few weeks who has done a Well and a LEED Silver building, and also heavily involved in the Living Building Challenge. So she's going to speak to that Well standard, and we'd like to have
make sure I sign up.
Join us for that. Yeah,
it'll be great.
Well, you just got to make us part of your your weekly programming, 1 o'clock.
Perfect. Perfect.
Don't end there. We do this 5 days a week.
Exactly.
Mark even puts out content in the middle of the night. So I love it. I love it. All right, let's move back into examining the inputs and outputs.
Next one.
Yep.
All right. So when we're talking about life cycle thinking and going beyond, there's an ISO guide called Guide 82, and it tells you essentially how to incorporate sustainability into an organization, into what you're doing. And so it wants you to do that thinking. It wants you to think about the employees, your stakeholders, much like Well did. Well took the LEED standard and said, let's think about the people who are going to work here and interact in here. Who is exposed and how are they protected? So we're talking about risk. Remember we talked about risk in your supply chain? Yep. Let's talk about risk in your organization. Who's exposed to what and for how long, and how are they protected? How is your business contracted? Are you fair trade? Do you have to pay bribes? Bribery is not a big thing in the United States, but there still are issues. This is a big one for me. There's a couple of big ones that I think make the biggest change, and we're going to talk about one of those big changes. But earning a living wage, I think that creates hunger, good education, good health. When people can afford, I remember commenting on a LinkedIn post, and people were like floored because they're like, Amazon is going to open up health centers. They should just stay in their own business. And it was for their employees. And I said, let me tell you what, Progressive Insurance, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio originally, has health centers. You can go to that health center, and do you know how much parents pay for co-pays sometimes for their children? 2 and 3 times they've got to go to the doctors, and they've got a $50 copay. If you can go to a Progressive center, if you're a Progressive employee and you don't have to pay your copay because your kid's sick, Amazon, please. You've got you're going to hire 33,000 employees? Please.
These are responsibility.
Exactly. These are things that make a big deal. They make a big deal to a mom who's trying to get her kid to not be sick and, has to buy new shoes for 3 kids or whatever. These are and the people were like, Amazon needs to stay in their own business. No, they need to be as good to their employees and the communities around them as they can. They're a powerhouse.
So Denise, when people say
I get emotional. I'm like,
no, the emotion is great. When people say they need to stay in their own business, the first thing we need to acknowledge is they're right. And people's business is their employees
and their communities that they do business in. It's called a license to operate in your community.
Yeah.
Do you have a license to operate in your community? Targets are created dramatically different than Walmart's in a community. Why? I'm not here to bash Walmart.
Yeah.
They're true. They give back to school programs. They pay their employees a better wage, have better working conditions, or whatever. But just think about it. They have a better social license to operate in the community than Walmart does. What is your Amazon gets a lot of bad press, and Amazon can do great things. I have a friend, Geoff Guest, who just became one of the lead scientists for Amazon. They're hiring scientists because they want to learn life cycle and how to make their products better and how to do better in the responsible consumption. So yes, they do a lot of bad. Amazon and Walmart may be on a lot of planes, but at the same time, they're maybe in small steps starting to make good progress towards change, because if they turn their ship, they're turning, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of employees. So it's just so funny that it just sparked me. I'm like, that Amazon post really got me. I was like, I got on there like 3 times too and defended myself. I'm like, listen here.
Yeah.
While
Anyway.
we got you, Denise, Dave, do we have questions that she can get down and dirty with?
Let's get into some of the comments that we have going on here. This one you guys are gonna have to read to me.
Buenas, saludos de Puerto Escondido, Oaxaca.
Ooh.
I love it. Thank you for joining us. I love it.
Buenos dias, or Buenos tardes.
Buenos tardes
still. No, it's Buenos dias still.
Buenos dias.
Or no, it's Buenos tardes. It's 12:45 in Mexico City.
Ahorita vamos a comer, ¿no?
All right. I love it. I love it.
Is lunch.
This is what's so fun about this show. I mean, we have people on from the Middle East, from around the world, UK, Canada, and whether I speak your language or not, it's wonderful that you tune in, because I got Mark and I got Denise today. So if you have questions, ask us. We can answer them.
Earlier in your presentation, you said we need to reset, Denise, and so in 2 weeks, Anjanette will be joining us to speak just on that. It just so happens that you're in DFA and she's down there in Puerto, so it's great to have 2 professionals like yourselves. Thank you.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. All right. Henry Mickelberg, going a bit Maslow, but would Denise agree that hard times such as now mean that companies prioritize more seemingly immediate business choice over sustainability?
I actually find that to be the opposite, believe it or not. I find that companies are prioritizing sustainability over what they were always doing. And sustainability is good business. Please don't, if you get anything from this, know that I don't want you to think of sustainability as here and business is here. If I can save you energy or water or materials or transportation just by pointing it out to you and somebody saying, yeah, why do we buy it from there? There's a company like 2 states away that buy this and we can buy it we buy it in China. If I can save you that kind of money, then sustainability is good business. It's not just sustainability. And that's kind of what we're trying to do, is that companies are starting to see that people are going to start demanding it. Once building construction goes back up to full swing, plus to make up for what we don't have right now, guess what's going to happen? This is going to be prioritized more than ever. So manufacturers are starting to see that, and we've got 1 quarter left, manufacturers. So if you want to make a difference, you've got 1 quarter in 2020 to get your stuff together, because come 2021, when things start rolling, your competitors may already be ahead of the curve, right? So I don't believe that sustainability and good business are not side by side. I mean, not side by side. Yeah, they are side by side. But I think that the people that run businesses suffered through COVID too. So they've got a different perspective at the end of the day. Yeah, they're people too.
For sure. All right. Thanks, Henry. Henry always has good questions. Scott.
Henry, you're a regular.
For the first time ever, Henry didn't cover up my face. So thank you, brother.
I know. Well, that's why I started moving us around a little bit so nobody gets covered up. So Scott Fardman, hey Scott, good you could join us today. How can we as a sustainable community encourage more manufacturers in the industry to put out EPDs so that we can properly track our carbon impacts?
Okay, so the biggest part of that is, if you think that small and medium-sized manufacturers don't want to do EPDs, you're wrong. If you think that most manufacturers don't want to do EPDs, you're wrong. They're very cost prohibitive to a lot of manufacturers. As they become more available, then the price starts going down. I can tell you right now. So in the US, an EPD will run you maybe $20,000 to $50,000, one EPD. So if you're asking for someone to have 3 of them, just multiply that. For a smaller, medium-sized manufacturer, that's a lot of money. And so, and they can't always justify it, because here's the thing. Yeah.
Can you tell people what an EPD stands for?
Sure. So an EPD stands for Environmental Product Declaration. It's actually a Type 3 Environmental Product Declaration, and it is follows the ISO standard 14025. Okay, and it was originally, I'll just go off on a quick tangent so you understand what it is. Originally, it was big in Europe, and it was not big in the United States, because here's why. And people used to always make fun of me being from Ohio and I had never been to Europe. And they're like, how can you never be to Europe? I was like, I've been to almost every state in the United States. And, you know, from Ohio, New York is 8 hours. Just because you're in Monaco and 8 hours away is another country. We're talking about not apples to apples, right? So in Europe, think about it. If you want to buy steel in France and you can choose from China and Germany, and you want to pick the one that's environmentally preferable, how do I know? So if I do a life cycle analysis, I follow a different ISO 14044 and 14040. And what it says is, as the practitioner, I get to pick. I get to pick what's called the functional unit. So the functional unit, I usually have a water bottle, but I don't have one today. So imagine a water bottle, because usually clients give me a water bottle. So I have one as my example, and I don't. Imagine a water bottle. And so me, as a life cycle practitioner, there you go. No, a water bottle. I have a cup too, but I'm looking for a water bottle, a plastic one. You got one of those somewhere? Anyway.
I would never
I
have
know, but see, clients, when you come into their office, always give you one. So I have it as my example. So I'll use the example and won't have the water bottle. So as a practitioner, I get to pick what I do. So imagine there's a cap and that little plastic ring that stays on there, and the bottle, and a plastic wrapper. Yeah, label. And so as a practitioner, I said, you know what? Not all water bottles have the wrapper. And so I'm going to just pick the bottle and the cap. And maybe not all of them have that little ring of plastic that stays over too. So I'm going to pick those 2. And then my colleague down the street says, you know what? I'm a purist. I want to do the best job. So I'm going to pick the cap and the ring and the bottle and the label. And then the next person says, yeah, the cap's not important. The wrapper's not important. I'm just going to pick the bottle itself. So you now have 3 different life cycles, all done by practitioners, all done to standard. But how do I compare them? How do I have a clue unless I read them, right? And even then I may not know. So what the EPD was developed for, as it's almost like a recipe. And it says that you have to follow what's called a PCR, or product category rule. And so each industry kind of has its own PCR, or there's a generic one. You can use ISO 21930, which is for construction products. It's generic. And so you say the title, let's say the resilient floor industry. The resilient floor industry has their own PCR. And so the resilient flooring industry says, every time you do an EPD and you use this PCR, you've got to do the bottle, the cap, the ring, the everything. So there you go.
Scott,
in a nutshell, we're going off on a tangent. Oh my goodness.
Denise, that was beautiful. Yeah. We now learn that EPD stands for the Edmonton Police Department. Thank you.
That's it. That's it.
I'm sorry. You asked. I just got kept going.
I love it. So we actually have a bunch more comments and questions that are coming in. We're going to get to all of them. Denise, why don't we do a speed round so we finish out your presentation?
Let's do quickly.
And then we'll come back and do a speed round with the audience, and we'll do real quick answers. Can you believe it, Denise? It has been 52 minutes already.
Wow. Let's go
quickly. It goes by fun. It's fast. It's fun. All right, here we go. Let's go back into the presentation. We just want to make sure everybody learns.
Next one. Go ahead, life cycle. We've talked about that. We're going to do really fast. What you find out at the end of an LCA. So this is what your report's going to say. It's going to tell you your environmental consequences from production, distribution, energy. It's going to give you your health and safety consequences of its operational processes. If you can read it, it can show you where you can find cost savings, where you can make your procedures more efficient, and how you can measure what you're doing. Next one, we're gonna go really fast. Let's go really quickly how we align, because remember I said I'll give you some tips on what you can do today. So let's say you're a company and we looked at your your life cycle, and we picked out things. So we picked out reduced greenhouse gas emissions, we picked out recycled content because you want to cut down on the virgin material, and we picked out no corruption and bribery. Will make all your suppliers sign a form saying they're not being bribed. And we're going to pick women in leadership. This is an interesting SDG. Next slide. And I just want to highlight this. So on the map, this is not the United States, but this is the SDG. It's called gender equality. SDG 5.
Yeah.
Next one. Next one. And this is the United States. It's red. Next one. Meaning we could do a lot of work. Now,
holy crap, what is this?
Wait, all right, so this is a map of how they're all interrelated. So orange means bad, means that for every good you do, you could be doing some bad. If you look at 5, if you can take your cursor, Dave, or whatever, go down the line for 5, that one, yes, all the way down, there's never any orange. The point of this slide is having women in leadership positions, whether they are in whatever, a company, a community, a government, never, ever has a drawback. There are no negative consequences of having women in leadership. Next slide.
All right, well, I think I messed this up. There we go.
Next. So gender equality, especially make sure if women are in leadership positions, you can make sure there's more children being fed, there's less poverty, because they're going to make decisions that affect the community, their moms, their wives, their children, their children's lives. Next. So the best way you can do that is to develop sustainable procurement plans and action plans that really highlight your goals. So if you start with your suppliers, we'll start with your organization and then expand out to your suppliers. Not only do you get out of your 4 walls, but you start affecting change that affects other organizations. Next slide. And then you go back and you align these with your organizational objectives to make sure that sustainability is not here and the rest of the organization is over there. Next slide. And that's
hey, contact details. All right, everybody take a screenshot right now so you have it.
So that is the quick thing, but just know that when you are looking to align with your company as opposed to siloing sustainability, you're going to want to take a look at life cycle thinking, find the things in that align with your company, and then create the action plans from that allow you to make change, not only in your company, but others. Okay.
I love it. I love it. No, hey, listen, you know what makes it so great is your enthusiasm. If you didn't have enthusiasm, I don't think people would understand it or listen. I think, there's a lot of emotion and a lot of caring coming out of your voice. And I think that's what makes it so real for people to listen and understand what you're talking about. And I love the enthusiasm.
If you look at life cycle analysis and product life cycle, it's not a very exciting topic. It's kind of like I gotta do my taxes now. This is gonna be a fun day.
It's like unlocking a secret. It's like in a company, it's unlocking a secret.
Right.
I can tell you that at the end of doing a life cycle or an an EPD with me, that you will know more about your product, more about your company, more about your footprint than you ever thought possible. Every single person that I have done it with, I have said that, and they always say, yeah, whatever. At the end, they're like, oh my goodness, this was an exercise. So there you have it.
your clients begin to use these words, and that word sustainability is no longer a mystery, right?
No,
It
exactly.
becomes part of their messaging, but really part of their as you called it before, it's the transformation of their identity. Their team and their company and their mission matches the reason they started making that product in the
first place.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the first place.
And it affects the culture. All right, so let's do our speed round on questions. This LinkedIn user is actually Jeff Rosensky. He's a territory account representative.
LinkedIn user.
Beyond, it doesn't transfer over when they have it blocked to not show outside of LinkedIn. Beyond aligning with our company, how do you justify the capital investment to upper management? I think we kind of touched on that already.
That would be aligning with your, or not aligning. That would be your not transformation. Oh my goodness. That would be your efficiency goals first. And that's where you're going to save the money, saving the paper, saving the energy, saving the water. And then once you go from there, I think they'll start seeing the light. But they are going to have to make a little bit of investment.
In a big organization, saving a little bit on electricity and water can be big dollars.
Yeah.
But it's also added to the messaging. As you mentioned in the beginning, this is what the consumers are looking for, and this is the health expectations we need. So what you're doing is you're investing that your company will be there. Otherwise, you are digging your own hole, and you're going to be digging.
Your competitors will.
Yeah.
I actually had one customer one time who made me so mad, I was going to call their competitors and offer to do it for free.
Oh no! Oh no! Well, you know, but I mean that is true. I mean,
I never did, but
let's face it, though. You know, most companies, especially in today's day and age, just like a comment previously, they're looking at their wallets, right? And I know you're seeing a shift in that, but that's probably not the biggest majority of companies, and maybe it is. And I think speaking the language of both sides of being there for the customer, but also, how does it affect your bottom dollar? If Denice comes in and helps us with our sustainability program, I can see immediate results within my organization and on my bottom line, right? And then the added bonus is to our business and our profitability is we're going to give the consumer exactly what they want because it became a win-win for all of us. But I do think the conversation has to start with, what is it going to do for me, Denice? I want to be a nice guy. I want to save the world, but that does not pay my bills. And that's where you got to answer that.
And not only that, look at what your competitors are doing.
That's right.
That's an easy way sometimes to get them is this is what all the competitors are doing. And if you want to stay at the forefront, especially in the building industry, you got to get going.
Leadership happens with integrity. And if you're leading a team down the wrong direction, that's where you're going to end up.
Some people do. Sadly.
All right, let's keep going.
What else we got?
All right, Denice, is there a third-party certified lead for consumer packaged goods?
I believe so, yes. I will look that up for you. I would double check. I believe so. I don't want to say it now and be wrong, but I think I have somebody for you.
I would imagine somebody has to look at that stuff.
Yeah, perfect. I believe it's SGS, by the way. SGS.
Any downloads available? Well, listen, Adam, I'm sure Denice would be more than happy to share her presentation with you. I'm speaking out of line, am I?
No. Absolutely.
Or you know what, Adam?
It's also part of a bigger presentation. If you go to, this is part of a bigger presentation that goes on for an hour. If you go to centerforcps.com and go under courses and free masterclass, there's a whole hour on this.
I think we have a bottom banner for that, Dave, don't we? No, we did in the beginning.
Yeah, Center for Corporate Performance and Sustainability.
I got it. Yep, we've been flashing it up under your name. Give me 1 second. It takes me a second to scroll.
There you go. You go to their website and go under, it's centerforcps.com and go under courses and masterclasses. You'll see my picture and there's a whole masterclass on it.
Yes. And Adam, you can also go to YouTube and watch this video as many times as you want, but only after you subscribe. I think you did subscribe. So remember to subscribe so you can get all this information. And if you forget that big name, Center for Corporate Performance, I got to wait for it to come up in sustainability. You can find it there. All right, let's keep moving through, guys. We're well over an hour at this point. I love it. I love it.
Sorry. I'm always on time.
All right, Anjanette, our guest that's coming on, applause on IAQ. Thank you very much.
So a reminder, What does IAQ stand for?
Indoor air quality.
Application questions. That's what.
Indoor air quality. Don't believe that. Mark's pulling your legs, everybody. All right, moving through. Etienne, hey, the wonderful Etienne. He's one of the other guys. He has like one of the best hairdos out there. I got to go to his hairdresser. There ain't much happening there. Great show. Love the energy.
I would look at your market and see what your market values, by the way, and which ones your market values will tell you which ones you should look at closely.
So Denice, Etienne manufactures in Switzerland, and he is responsible for North America. So they have pretty stringent details, but he's always asking questions, and that's why he's here learning from you today.
Yeah, but I would look at what your market values.
Right. Love it. Love
all
it.
Your
all
competitors.
Right, we got a few more going here. I don't know who this one is. I'll have to look. Will EPDs affect the fastener industry? Wedge anchors, Tapcons, text, for example, from an embodied carbon perspective.
Wow.
I'm leaving that for you. I'm going to see who wrote that. Let me look over here.
So I think that for a lead project, every EPD counts as one.
Got it.
So for a lead project, you need, 20, it depends on if you're core and shell, 10 from different manufacturers. So for a lead project, you have 100% equal to, let's say, somebody who's making the core board or the MDF or whatever. You're equal overall. When you look at it from an environmental perspective on your company, again, I would say everything that you find out will be invaluable to how much electricity you use, what your suppliers are, what you use. Again, that's 100%. Even though your piece is this small, right? So
it's interesting, although the piece is small. So what Jeff is commenting on is these are our fasteners, right? These are our structural components. So screws and nails, each one is tiny, but you have thousands going into our wall assemblies and roof assemblies and connections. And so while steel is a recyclable and recycled material, how they process it and everything else, and the embodied energy is a big deal.
I would say the embodied energy, because again, every time you buy fuel of whatever source, electricity, gasoline, whatever, natural gas, you're paying money, right? So if you are looking at it from what you will learn, each one of those fastener companies are in business to make money, right? So if you look at what you will learn in the end on where your money is, so in a life cycle, or it's a part of the